Breaking news: rescued compromise on Gaza resolution sought by UN Security Council. After earlier attempts to gain support from Washington failed, the United Nations Security Council was engrossed on Thursday in attempts to reach a compromise in order to pass a resolution on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Latest draft version seen by AFP after days of delays calls for urgent steps to immediately allow safe and unhindered humanitarian access, and also for creating the conditions for a sustainable cessation of hostilities. The official schedule had the resolution's vote set for later Thursday, amidst worsening conditions in Gaza and an increasing death toll. Diplomatic wrangling at the United Nations headquarters in Manhattan has caused the vote to be postponed multiple times this week. According to the draft version seen by AFP, the resolution on the conflict, which is sponsored by the United Arab Emirates, was watered down in several important areas in order to achieve compromise. It additionally calls for all parties to allow and facilitate the use of all routes to and throughout the entire Gaza Strip, including border crossings, for the provision of humanitarian assistance. Hamas officials claim that on Thursday, Israel bombed a relief crossing that had just reopened. The 15-person council has been arguing over the resolution for days, trying to reach a consensus. Desperate circumstance, using its veto twice since the war began, Washington has prevented resolutions opposed by Israel, including the term ceasefire, which Israel and its ally the United States have both strongly opposed. On Wednesday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated that the elimination of Hamas would be required before a truce could be considered in Gaza. U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby informed reporters that we're still actively working with our UN partners about the resolution and on the language itself. War in the diplomatic sphere broke out as a UN hunger monitoring system issued a dire warning. Every single person in war-torn Gaza is expected to face high levels of acute food insecurity in the next 6 weeks. No one in Gaza is safe from starvation, according to the World Food Program, which has been calling the situation desperate. Hence, the urgent humanitarian ceasefire has been demanded by all parties involved, according to Stefan Dujarric, spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary-General. An AFP tally based on Israeli figures indicates that around 1,140 people, mostly civilians, were killed when Hamas infiltrated Israel on October 7. In response, Israel launched an unrelenting ground and air offensive. On Wednesday, the Gaza Strip media office of the Hamas government announced that a minimum of 20,000 individuals had been killed, with 6,200 women and 8,000 children among them. In the hours leading up to Thursday's scheduled vote, the United States reiterated its deep reservations about a proposed United Nations Security Council resolution on Gaza. The Council was supposed to vote on a resolution requesting urgent humanitarian pauses, but, despite deliberations, it could not settle on a wording, concerned that the resolution proposed by the UAE could actually slow down humanitarian aid into Gaza. The U.S. voiced its disapproval. It stated that it had widespread concerns. The Security Council, whose responsibility it is to maintain international stability, has been delaying a resolution to end hostilities for the better part of a week due to disagreements over its wording. A suspension of hostilities, rather than a cessation of hostilities, is one example of how the resolution has already been adjusted to suit Washington's stance. The Arab group of nations has insisted that any meaningful resolution must include a UN mechanism to monitor aid into Gaza, and Thursday's text seemed to propose just that. However, the United States requested another postponement so that it and Egypt could discuss how to establish a monitoring mechanism that would benefit both countries, out of concern that this would strip Israel of its control over the screening process. The current fuel and aid shipments to Gaza are being closely watched by Israel. The goal of the resolution, according to U.S. mission to the UN spokesperson Nate Evans, was to facilitate and help expand humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza, and we cannot lose sight of that purpose, he said on Thursday evening. We must ensure any resolution helps and doesn't hurt the situation on the ground, according to him. According to John Kirby, the U.S. National Security spokesman, the U.S. is actively working on the draft resolution and a vote could happen within the next few hours at the latest. 13 out of 15 members of the United Nations Security Council backed a resolution earlier this month urging an immediate end to the fighting in Gaza. However, the United States vetoed the resolution and the United Kingdom chose not to participate. U.S. and Israeli officials agree that a truce would be good for Hamas and have voiced their support for such measures. but ever since then, there has been mounting demand to put an end to hostilities. Hamas announced earlier this week that 20,000 had been killed in Gaza since October 7th. On Thursday, the United Nations World Food Program issued a dire warning that the ongoing conflict in Gaza could lead to famine.